The HFY Empire had conquered 100 worlds. They believed themselves invincible. When their ships arrived in Earth's orbit, they saw nothing but a primitive species, weak, scattered, and unaware of the horrors lurking in the galaxy. Admiral Vorquin, leader of the invasion fleet, was certain this would be another easy conquest. He ordered the attack. Cities burned. Skies turned black with smoke. Humans fought, but their weapons were useless against the HFY's advanced technology. The war should have ended in days, but it didn't. Something was wrong. The first change the HFY expected humans to surrender. Instead, they adapted. Too quickly. Their weapons, crude at first, became more effective with unnatural speed. Soldiers who should have died from injuries stood back up. Some even laughed as their wounds closed before the HFY's eyes. On one battlefield, HFY scientists witnessed something impossible. A soldier, his chest ripped open by plasma fire, fell to the ground only to rise seconds later, his eyes darker, his body different. He moved faster, stronger, and when he attacked, the plasma weapons no longer hurt him. The scientists reported their findings. Humans were learning. Evolving. Evolution took thousands of years. A species couldn't change in days. It was impossible. Then the reports got worse. Entire battalions of HFY soldiers disappeared overnight. Their bodies were never found. The few survivors spoke of humans moving in ways that defied logic, bodies shifting, stretching, breaking, only to reform stronger. They whispered of eyes that glowed in the dark, of shadows that followed them even in the light. And then came the voices. At first, they were quiet. HFY soldiers heard faint whispers in their minds, voices speaking in a language they did not understand. Soon, the whispers turned into laughter. Soldiers stopped sleeping. Some tore at their own eyes, screaming that they could see something inside the humans. Others stood silent and still, refusing to move, refusing to speak until they started tearing each other apart. The turning point. Admiral Vorquin ordered an orbital bombardment. Entire human cities were erased. The admiral watched with satisfaction as fire consumed the land. Nothing could survive that level of destruction. Then, the screens in his warship flickered. Static buzzed. The human transmission came through. A single man sat in a dark room, staring at the camera. He smiled. "We understand you now." The transmission ended. The bombardment had failed. When the dust settled, humans stood where their cities had been, untouched, waiting. The war was over. Not because the HFY won, because the humans were done learning. The last transmission HFY ships tried to flee. They never made it past the atmosphere. The admiral watched in horror as the fleet's fastest ships stopped in midair, held by something unseen. One by one, they were peeled apart, as if some great hand was dissecting them piece by piece. Admiral Vorquin, shaking, activated his distress beacon. He sent a final message to the Empire. "Do not return. Do not come for Earth. We made a mistake. They are not a species. They are something else. And now they know what we are." The message was never received, because the HFY Empire was already gone. The Galactic Federation had existed for 1,000 years, guiding young species, controlling their growth, and keeping balance in the universe. They had uplifted many civilizations, giving them knowledge, power, and a place among the stars. Then they found Earth. At first, humanity seemed ordinary, primitive, emotional, reckless. But the Federation believed they could be tamed. They sent emissaries, shared technology, and welcomed humans into the Great Galactic Order. That was their first mistake. Something was wrong. Humans learned too fast. Most species took centuries to understand even the basics of galactic physics. Humans mastered it in decades. They built ships stronger, faster, and deadlier than anything the Federation had seen. Their scientists looked at forbidden knowledge, the kind that drove others to madness, and they did not fear. They understood. The High Council grew uneasy. It wasn't normal. It wasn't natural. Then the disappearances began. First, it was small things. A research station near a black hole vanished. An observation ship sent to study Earth lost. A senator who had argued against human expansion missing. The Federation tried to investigate. They found no evidence, no wreckage, no bodies. It was as if these people had been erased from existence. The whispering void soon, the whispers started. Council members heard strange voices in their sleep. Scientists reported shadows moving in empty rooms. The AI systems, built to be perfect, began malfunctioning, repeating the same phrase over and over, "They are waking up." Some tried to warn the others. They were never seen again. Then, a message came from the farthest edge of the galaxy, a distress signal from a world untouched by war for centuries. The transmission was shaky, filled with static, but one word could be heard clearly. Humans. When the Federation sent ships to investigate, they found nothing. No cities, no bodies, no ruins. Just an empty planet, as if the civilization had never existed. The truth a desperate meeting was held in the Federation's Grand Hall. The leaders of 100 worlds gathered, their voices filled with fear. What are they? Someone asked. No one had an answer. Then the lights flickered. A chill filled the air. The holograms of distant council members blinked out one by one. And then they arrived. The doors did not open. The walls did not break. Yet suddenly, the humans were there. They looked the same, yet something was different. Their eyes were too deep, their smiles too, knowing. One of them stepped forward. His voice was soft, but it filled the entire chamber. You thought we were like you. Silence. No one dared to move. The humans smiled. You did not uplift us. You did not teach us. His eyes darkened, his form flickered, shifting between what was real and what was beyond reality. You woke us up. The ground trembled. The air itself seemed to scream. The High Council tried to flee, but there was nowhere to go. One by one, their minds shattered. The end of the Federation. No one knows what happened that day. No messages were sent. No survivors escaped. But from that moment, the Galactic Federation ceased to exist. Its worlds remained, its cities untouched, but its people were gone. And in the darkness of space, humanity spread, their eyes filled with knowledge that should never have been awakened. The warlord Vraxtor stood at the bridge of his massive warship, looking down at the blue planet below. Earth. A small, insignificant world. Weak. Defenseless. His fleet had crushed countless civilizations. Planets burned. Species disappeared. He had seen many fall before him, begging for mercy that never came. Earth would be no different. The order was given. The invasion began. The first false cities collapsed in fire. Human armies fought bravely, but their weapons were nothing compared to the might of the Korthan Dominion. Within weeks, half of Earth belonged to Vraxtor. Humans should have surrendered. They should have broken. But something was wrong. Despite the destruction, despite their losses, humans did not stop fighting. They did not beg. They did not fear. And then, they started to change. The impossible survivors Vraxtor received reports of human soldiers getting back up after fatal wounds. Plasma blasts should have turned them to ash, but they stood again, their eyes colder, their movements sharper. Some of his warriors swore they saw humans healing in seconds, their bodies knitting back together as if time itself had reversed. Others claimed that the humans who died did not stay dead. Then the first Korsan soldiers disappeared. Entire battalions vanished without a trace. Those who returned were not the same. They were silent, their eyes filled with something wrong. And when they spoke, their voices were not their own. We do not lose. The words spread like a curse. The horror spreads. Vraxtor ordered an orbital bombardment. Cities burned again. Billions died. And then nothing. No screams. No cries. Just silence. A single human walked through the ruins of a destroyed city, looking up at the warlord's flagship. He had no weapons. No armor. Just a smile. Vraxtor saw it through his screens. That smile was not human. It was something else. The man spoke. His voice echoed in every Korthan ship, in every mind, in every nightmare. You don't understand, do you? The ground shook. The sky darkened. The ruined bodies of the fallen began to move. We do not lose. The last stand the Korthan fleet tried to escape, but their ships would not respond. Their weapons failed. Their technology, their power all useless now. Something had infected them. Something beyond their understanding. Vrax Tor looked around his bridge, his most loyal warriors frozen in place, eyes wide with terror. He felt it too. The cold. The presence. The thing inside the humans. He turned to his second-in-command, but the warrior only stared back at him, smiling. Vrax Tor opened his mouth to speak, to beg, to scream. The darkness took him before he could make a sound. The fate of the Korthantha Korthan Dominion was never heard from again. Their worlds remained. Their cities stood. But their people were gone. And in the silence, the echoes of human voices whispered across the stars. Captain Drool of the Zavanti Exploration Fleet stood on the bridge of his ship, staring at the blue planet below. Earth. A primitive world, untouched by galactic civilization. The perfect place for study. His mission was simple: observe, document, and report. The humans were young, just beginning to explore space. They had no knowledge of the vast empires beyond their solar system, but something about Earth felt wrong. Drool didn't know why. The planet was beautiful, full of life, yet it felt unnatural. His instincts screamed at him to leave. He should have listened. The uneasy observations at first, everything seemed normal. Humans behaved as expected, emotional, reckless, unpredictable. Their history was full of wars, great empires rising and falling, myths of gods walking among them. But then, his crew found something disturbing. There were gaps in human history, entire centuries where nothing was recorded. Civilizations vanished without explanation. Stories of beings who came from the sky and then disappeared. Drool studied their legends. The more he read, the more uneasy he became. The humans spoke of gods that lived among them, taught them, shaped their world. But one detail stood out. The gods did not leave. They were buried. The forbidden dig curiosity became obsession. Drell and his crew landed on Earth in secret, searching for answers. Deep underground, beneath ruins older than human civilization, they found it. A door. Not made by humans. Not made by anything known. Strange symbols covered its surface. They pulsed, as if alive. Drool hesitated. Every instinct told him to stop, but the mystery was too great. He had to know. He gave the order. The door opened. The awakening, the ground shook. The air grew heavy. Something moved in the darkness beyond the door. A presence. A voice. No. Voices whispering in a language that had not been spoken for millions of years. His crew screamed. Some collapsed, clutching their heads. Others stared, their eyes changing. Drool stepped back, heart pounding. He realized too late this was not a prison. It was not a tomb. It was a cage, and they had just unlocked it. The distress signal from Drool's ship reached the Zavanti High Council. A rescue team was sent. They found Earth exactly as before: cities, people, life going on as normal. But Drool's ship was empty. His crew was gone. No bodies. No signs of struggle. Only one thing remained. A single transmission. A voice distorted, filled with something ancient. They are not human. They were never human. And now they remember. The signal cut off. Earth remained silent, watching, waiting, and something beneath its surface began to stir. Grand Admiral Excelthor stood at the bridge of his warship, staring at the planet below. Earth, a primitive world, unaware of the doom approaching from the stars. His fleet had crushed civilizations far greater than this one. The humans had no chance. Selthor activated the fleet-wide comms. No survivors, he ordered. Make it quick. The invasion began. The resistance human cities burned within hours. Their armies were outmatched. Their weapons were useless against the might of the Excelthorian Dominion. It should have been an easy victory. But then something changed. At first, it was whispers. Faint, distant, wrong. His soldiers reported hearing voices. Some dismissed it as battle stress. Others were less sure. The voices spoke in perfect Excelthorian dialect, but no human should have known their language. And then the whispers turned into names. Not human names. Their names. The fear spread. Soldier panicked, reporting that his childhood name, one he had never spoken aloud, was whispered directly into his ear. Others began hearing their own names, secrets no human could ever know. Some tried to fight. Others froze, unable to move as the whispers crawled inside their minds. Then the first deaths happened. Not from human weapons. Not from battle. Selthor watched as his warriors collapsed. No wounds. No blood. Just gone. Their eyes wide, faces twisted in horror. More fell. The strongest, the bravest, all dying without reason. Without explanation. And the humans? They were smiling. The names were not just words. Sexor ordered a retreat. His ships tried to lift off. Engines failed. Systems shut down. The whispers grew louder. And then, something far worse happened. The humans started speaking aloud. When they spoke Excelthorian's name, that soldier ceased to exist. No body. No trace. Just erased from reality. Zelthor watched in horror as his warriors disappeared one by one. They had believed themselves to be gods of war. But the humans were something else entirely. Something older. Something hungry. The last message. Zelthor, trembling, sent a final message to the Dominion. Do not return to Earth. Do not speak. Do not listen. Before he could finish, a human voice echoed through his ship. Calm. Gentle. Knowing, Excelthor. And then he was gone. The fate of the Excelthorians, the fleet, never returned. No wreckage. No distress beacons. Only silence. The Excelthorian Dominion erased all records of Earth. No one spoke of the invasion. No one dared, because they knew the truth. Humans were not prey. They were not conquerors. They were something worse. And across the void, the whispers still spread, speaking names no one should ever know.